Cole, what the hell do you think you're doing? The drill sergeant's voice cut through the barracks like a blade. Boots froze mid-step. Conversation died. Every recruit turned toward me. The new guy standing stiff with my cheap duffel bag hanging from one shoulder. I hadn't even set it down before laughter broke out. Farm boy shows up to Uncle Sam's house with Goodwill gear. You lost, son? That was my welcome to boot camp. The duffel wasn't regulation. The clothes inside barely fit. And the tag still had the name of some thrift shop stapled to it. I felt every eye in that barracks sizing me up like I didn't belong. The sergeant didn't let the moment slip. He grabbed the bag, dumped it out on the floor, and let my shirts and socks scatter like dirty laundry for everyone to see. Pathetic. You think this army runs on pity? You think anyone here is going to salute you because you've had a hard life? Wrong. They'll eat you alive. The guys roared, slapping bunks, grinning at my expense. One of them, a tall recruit named Miller, smirked loud enough for the whole bay to hear. Better get used to KP duty, Cole. That's all you'll be good for. The words burned, but I stood still, jaw clenched, hands locked at my sides. No answer, no defense, just silence. It didn't stop there. At chow that evening, I carried my tray past a line of recruits. Miller stretched his leg, tripped me clean in front of the whole hall. My food hit the floor, mashed potatoes splattered across my boots. Guess the farm boy forgot how to walk, he laughed, and the echo carried down the steel tables. I bent down, picked up what I could, and set the tray on the rack. My stomach stayed empty that night, but not everyone laughed. Ramirez, quiet kid from Texas with dark eyes that gave away more than he said, watched it all. He didn't step in, not then, not with the drill sergeant's eyes sweeping the room, but I caught the look. Pity? Respect? I couldn't tell. All I knew was someone had noticed, and in a place where weakness meant blood in the water, that mattered. The humiliation stacked up fast. Inspection morning, boots lined up sharp down the barracks floor, each pair polished to a mirror. Mine hand-me-downs, I'd shined for hours, still looked dull under the sergeant's glare. He kicked them halfway across the bay. If your father raised you, son, he should have taught you better. Oh, wait, guess he didn't. My chest went tight. The truth hurt more than the insult. No one said a word. Just silence, heavy and sharp. I bent, picked up my boots, and placed them back in line. The sergeant moved on. That night, under flickering lights, I sat on my bunk, replaying every insult, every laugh, every smirk. I wanted to snap, to yell, to fight. But that wasn't me. I thought of my father, gone years before, but I remembered his voice telling me, strength doesn't need noise, Marcus. It shows itself when the moment comes. So I swallowed the bitterness and said nothing. Days blurred into drills, push-ups until my arms gave out, runs until my legs felt like sandbags. Every time I fell behind, Miller barked jokes about farmers chasing cows. Every time I stumbled, the sergeant singled me out, making an example of my weakness. My body burned, but I refused to quit. Quiet was my shield. And then something small happened. We were issued rope kits for field training. The sergeant ordered us to secure our packs using square knots. Half the recruits fumbled with clumsy fingers, ropes slipping loose. Mine, tight, clean, precise, done in seconds. My hands remembered the work from long days mending fence lines back home. Miller sneered. Lucky guess. But Ramirez glanced over, gave the faintest nod. Someone saw. That night, as the lights went out, I lay in the dark with the sound of boots scuffing, whispers drifting through the barracks. I felt the sting of the day's humiliation, the weight of their doubt pressing down. But deep inside, a quiet fire was building. I wasn't here to impress them. I wasn't here for laughter or approval. I was here to endure, to survive. And what none of them knew, not Miller, not even the drill sergeant, was that endurance was something I had in spades. I thought that was the end of it, just another day of swallowing pride. But what I never expected was how soon that fire would be tested and how everything they thought they knew about me was about to be shattered. If this story resonates with you, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next chapters of this journey. The rain came down in sheets that night, soaking everything, uniforms, packs, even the dirt beneath our boots. The drill sergeant's voice carried over the storm, sharp and cutting. "Cole, keep up. You think the enemy's going to wait for your sorry pace?" I kept running, lungs burning, legs on fire, but I didn't slow. Not once. Every breath felt like I was swallowing knives, yet I refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. Recruits behind me whispered just loud enough to sting. "Farm boy's about to drop." Dead weight, just like the sergeant says. I clenched my jaw and pushed harder. I wasn't going to give them what they wanted. By the time we got back to the barracks, my uniform clung to my skin, my boots filled with mud. Everyone else peeled theirs off, laughing, joking, shaking out the water. I quietly hung mine to dry and sat on the edge of my bunk, silent as always. That's when Miller walked by, the same guy who tripped me in the chow hall. He tossed his soaked jacket on my bunk, water splattering across my clean blanket. "You like doing extra work, Cole? Try that for me." His buddies laughed. I didn't answer. Just picked it up, wrung it out, and hung it beside mine. He wanted me angry. He wanted me to explode so the sergeant could crush me harder. I wasn't going to give him that. The next morning was chow. My stomach was a knot from hunger. I hadn't eaten well in days. I picked up my tray, slid down the line, and sat at an empty table. Within seconds, the taunts started. "Careful, don't trip again. Don't spill it, farm boy." I kept my head down, spoon halfway to my mouth, when Miller bumped my tray hard enough that my drink tipped over. Milk splashed across the table and onto my lap. "Damn, clumsy as ever." He grinned. Everyone laughed. I froze for a second, then set the tray down. I started cleaning it up with napkins, every eye on me. That silence hurt more than the laugh, because no one stood up, not even Ramirez. But then when the room quieted, I felt something slide in front of me. A second tray. Ramirez had stood in line again, brought me food without a word. He didn't look at me, just sat down across the table and started eating. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But in that moment, it meant more than anything. One person, even silent, showing me I wasn't completely alone. Later that week, the sergeant singled me out during drills. Push-ups in the gravel until my arms shook and blood from my palms stained the ground. "Keep going, Cole. You'll stop when I say, not when you quit." I pushed through the pain, every muscle screaming. Miller's voice cut through, mocking from the sidelines. "Bet he cries tonight." My arms buckled, but I caught myself before I hit the ground. I looked straight at the dirt, teeth gritted, and kept moving. One more rep, then another, and another. The sergeant leaned in close, his voice low, so only I heard, "You'll never make it, Cole. Some men aren't built for this." I met his eyes just for a second, didn't say a word. Then I did 5 more push-ups before he told me to stop. At night when the lights went out, I'd stay up practicing. Rifle disassembled and reassembled in the dark. Over and over until my hands knew it by memory. On the range, I was the worst shot in the unit. They called me blind, said I couldn't hit a barn back on my farm. I missed targets, rounds going wide, every mistake making the laughter louder. But after everyone left, I stayed. Breath steady, sight lined, squeeze, not jerk, the trigger. The first time I hit center mass alone in the dark, I almost smiled. Almost. I knew better than to show it. Ramirez caught me once. He didn't say much, just leaned against the door frame, watching. After I hit 3 in a row, he finally spoke. "You've done this before, haven't you?" I shook my head. "No." My voice came out hoarse. "But I know what it means to keep trying when everyone's betting on you to fail." He nodded once. That was it. No speeches. No big moment. Just a nod. But I carried that with me more than he knew. Still, the pressure didn't let up. Every day was another chance for the sergeant to prove I didn't belong. Every laugh from Miller, another reminder I was the odd one out. But with every humiliation, something inside me hardened. I stopped hearing the words as insults. I started hearing them as fuel. They wanted me gone. They wanted me broken. Fine. I'd stay. I'd endure. And one day I'd make sure they knew exactly who I was. The breaking point came faster than I thought. It was a forced march, full pack, scorching heat. Miles stretched out like punishment. Recruits staggered, some dropped back, others cursed under their breath. Miller, loud as ever, shouted, "Cole's gonna drop first, watch!" I kept moving, step after step, back screaming, shoulders burning. Sweat blinded me, but I didn't slow. Then Miller himself collapsed, pack sliding into the dirt. He gasped, legs giving out. The sergeant barked for him to get up, but he couldn't. Without thinking, I pulled his pack onto mine. Twice the weight. My knees almost gave out, but I locked them, forced myself forward. Miller spat, "Don't touch my gear." His pride burned hotter than the sun, but I carried it anyway, step by step until we finished the march. When we hit the line, the sergeant stood waiting, arms crossed. His eyes were hard, but I caught something else, something like respect flickering for a split second. He said nothing, just ordered us back inside. Miller stared at me, face pale, pride shattered. He wanted to insult me, to tear me down again, but no words came, just silence. That moment stuck with me. The march wasn't the end of the humiliation. I knew more was coming, maybe worse, but I'd changed. They couldn't take that from me. I'd carried a man who mocked me, carried his pride and his weight when he couldn't carry himself. And for the first time, the silence in that barracks wasn't filled with laughter. It was heavy, like they finally realized I wasn't going to break. Not today, not ever. If this story resonates with you, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next chapters of this journey. They told us the field exercise was just another drill, a mock mission, 2 days in the woods, full gear, live stress but blank rounds. Nothing we hadn't already tasted. But from the way the sergeant barked orders that morning, I could tell this one was different. He wanted blood, or at least the kind of sweat that feels like it. "Today," he growled, "we see who's soldiers and who's just wasting oxygen." His eyes landed on me, like always. "Cole, I expect you gone before sundown." The guys laughed, Miller the loudest. I kept my face still. Inside, I could feel the heat rising, but I swallowed it down, like always. We hiked deep into the training grounds, packs heavy, rifles slung across our chests. The rain had turned the dirt paths into sludge, every step sucking at our boots. Miller kept up the commentary. "Watch farm boy trip over a stick and ruin the mission." His buddies chuckled. I stayed quiet, eyes on the tree line, counting steps, controlling my breathing. Ramirez walked a few feet behind me. He didn't say a word, but I caught his glance every so often. It was steady, like he was waiting for something. By mid-afternoon, we were assigned a crossing, a swollen river, waist high, moving faster than it looked. The sergeant pointed to it like a test designed for failure. "Get across, keep your gear dry. Nobody falls behind." We tied ropes between trees, tried to make a line across the current. Guys went one by one, slow and careful. When Miller's turn came, he strutted like he owned the water. Halfway across, he slipped. His pack dragged him under fast. Shouts erupted. "He's going down! Grab him!" But nobody moved. They froze, eyes wide, fear locking them in place. Miller's head broke the surface once, gasping. Then he went under again. Without thinking, I dropped my rifle on the bank and dove in. The cold punched the air out of my lungs. I fought the current, eyes burning, arms pulling hard until I reached him. He thrashed, panicked, dragging me down with him. I remembered my father's old words, "Never fight the drowning man. Control him, or you'll both die." So I did. I looped the rope I'd tied to my waist, slipped it under his arms, and kicked hard for the surface. He coughed, sputtered, dead weight against me, but I held him up. With everything I had, I hauled him toward the bank, hand over hand on the rope. My muscles screamed, lungs ready to burst, but I didn't let go. When we reached land, I rolled him onto his side. Water poured from his mouth. He coughed, groaned, still alive. Silence fell over the squad. Every face turned toward me, eyes wide. Even the sergeant looked stunned. For the first time, Miller didn't have words. Just lay there, gasping, staring at me like he'd seen a ghost. "Where the hell did you learn that?" the sergeant demanded, his voice sharp but shaky. I wiped the water from my face, breathing hard. "My father," I said quietly. "He was a Navy rescue diver. Taught me what he could before he died." That shut them up. Nobody laughed. Nobody mocked. The air hung heavy, like the whole unit had just realized they'd been blind the whole time. We regrouped, pushed deeper into the woods. No one spoke to me, but I could feel it. Something had shifted. Even Ramirez's look had changed. It wasn't pity anymore. It was respect. The second night came with a surprise assault drill. Blank rounds cracked in the dark. Smoke grenades filled the air. We were supposed to hold a defensive line, but chaos tore through the squad. Radios went dead. Half the gear malfunctioned. Men shouted, tripped, lost their bearings. I found Miller again, struggling with a jammed rifle, panic rising. The sergeant screamed over the noise, "Cole, you worthless!" He never finished because I was already moving. I grabbed Miller's rifle, cleared the jam in seconds, shoved it back into his hands. "Focus!" I barked. His eyes flickered, shocked that I even bothered. But I didn't wait for thanks. I saw the squad scattering, no one holding position. So I stepped up. "Form on me," I shouted, louder than I'd ever dared. For a second they hesitated. Then Ramirez moved first, planting himself at my side. Others followed. One by one, the recruits who mocked me formed up, firing into the night, holding ground. The sergeant watched, expression unreadable, as the line held. When the smoke cleared and the exercise ended, the field was littered with blank casings, the air sharp with burnt powder. I stood there, chest heaving, mud on my face, hands raw. And for the first time, the squad stood with me, not against me. Back at camp, the sergeant called us to formation. His voice carried that usual bite, but it cracked around the edges. "Cole, step forward." My heart hammered. I did. He stared at me long and hard. The whole squad held their breath. Finally, he spoke. "You saved a soldier today. You led when I expected you to break. I don't hand out praise, ever, but you proved me wrong." He paused, jaw tight. "Don't make me regret it." The guys looked at me differently after that. Miller avoided my eyes, shame plain on his face. Ramirez clapped me on the shoulder, no words needed. The respect was silent, but it was there, thicker than any applause. Lying in my bunk that night, I thought about the river, the smoke, the sergeant's face when he realized I wasn't who he thought. I wasn't the weak farm boy. I wasn't the mistake in the barracks. I was a soldier. And for the first time since stepping onto that base, I believed it myself. What I never expected was how fast things could change. One drill, one moment, and suddenly the whole power dynamic flipped. The same men who mocked me now followed me. The sergeant who tried to break me had no choice but to acknowledge me. And Miller, the loudest voice against me, owed me his life. It wasn't victory, not yet. There were more tests ahead, more battles waiting. But the shift had begun. The silence that once smothered me now carried weight. Respect doesn't come with noise. It comes with proof. And that night, for the first time, I felt like I'd earned it. If this story resonates with you, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next chapters of this journey. The days after the field exercise felt different. You could sense it in the barracks, in the way conversations shifted when I walked in. Before, my presence drew smirks and cheap shots. Now it drew silence. Not the mocking silence I'd gotten used to. The heavy kind, like they were waiting to see what I'd do next. Miller barely looked at me. He ate fast in the chow hall, shoulders hunched, eyes locked on his. Trey Ramirez, though, he walked with a bit more pride beside me. He didn't say much, but he didn't have to. Everyone knew he'd stood next to me in that smoke when no one else dared. Still, the sergeant wasn't about to let things soften. That morning, inspection hit harder than ever. He stormed through the barracks, tearing apart lockers, flipping blankets, barking at recruits for specks of dust. When he reached mine, he hesitated. My boots gleamed, my bed corners tight enough to slice paper. He didn't say a word, just glared, then moved on. That silence was louder than any insult he could have thrown. But later, in the yard, he made his move. "Cole, front and center." His voice cracked like a whip. I jogged up, stood tall, heart hammering. He circled me like a wolf. "This man," he barked to the unit, "thinks one lucky save makes him a leader. Thinks one loud order makes him in charge. Let's remind him where he stands." He dropped a sandbag at my feet. "Carry it. 10 laps. Don't drop it. If you do, Everyone pays. I hoisted it onto my shoulders, weight grinding into my bones. The run started. Each lap felt like dragging a mountain. The guys muttered, cursed under their breath. He drops it. We suffer. Miller's voice carried venom. Figures. But Ramirez cut in, quiet but sharp. He won't drop it. I caught that, and it was enough. By lap 6, my vision blurred. Every step felt like it might be my last. The sergeant's voice boomed across the yard. You think you belong here, Cole? Prove it. My legs shook, sand grinding into my skin. And then, right on lap 8, it slipped. The bag hit the dirt with a dull thud. Gasps, groans. The sergeant pounced. Pathetic, just like I said. Miller jumped on it too, sneering. Told you he'd fold. My chest burned with shame. For a moment I thought it was over. But something unexpected happened. Ramirez stepped forward, picked up the sandbag, and slammed it back onto my shoulders. His voice was low but carried enough for all to hear. He's not done. The squad froze. The sergeant's jaw tightened, but he didn't stop us. I stumbled, but I kept going, because now it wasn't just about me. Ramirez had risked the sergeant's wrath to back me. That weight became something else. It wasn't punishment anymore. It was proof. Lap 10 came. I staggered across the line, sandbag still clinging to my back. I dropped it at the sergeant's feet, chest heaving. He stared at me, eyes narrowed. For once, he didn't have a sharp insult ready, just a flicker of something he didn't want to admit. Respect. He turned away. Fall in. That night, the barracks whispered. Not insults this time, but quiet talk. He carried it. Didn't quit. Even Miller didn't say a word. He lay in his bunk, staring at the ceiling, his pride cracked wide open. The next morning, the commander himself, Lieutenant Daniels, called us to assembly. We stood in formation, boots lined, rifles slung. His voice was calm but carried weight. Yesterday I observed something. Strength isn't just about muscle or endurance. It's about refusing to quit when quitting would be easier. Private Cole demonstrated that. He paused, eyes scanning the line. That's what a soldier looks like. A ripple went through the ranks. My chest tightened, not with shame this time, but with something I hadn't felt in weeks. Pride. Daniels turned, dismissed us. The formation broke. The guys clapped my shoulder as they walked by. Small gestures, but heavier than metals in that moment. Ramirez gave me a nod that said everything words couldn't. Later in the chow hall, Miller finally spoke. He approached my table, tray in hand, face pale. For once there was no sneer, no joke, just a stiff, awkward pause. You saved me in that river, he muttered. Didn't have to. His voice cracked. I was wrong about you. Then he walked away. The sergeant never apologized outright. He wasn't built for that. But during evening drill, he glanced at me just once, and his hand twitched up in a quick, informal salute. Not regulation, not official, just a signal. A silent admission that he'd misjudged me. That moment landed harder than any words. I went to sleep that night with sore muscles, blistered hands, and a weight lifted off my shoulders. I wasn't the outcast anymore. I wasn't the joke. The squad had seen me break and keep moving, seen me carry weight that should have crushed me. And in that breaking, I'd been remade. What none of them realized was how much further this journey still had to go. Respect wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of something bigger, something that would test not just my body, but everything I believed about loyalty, sacrifice, and brotherhood. If this story resonates with you, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next chapters of this journey. The last week of training came faster than any of us expected. The air in the barracks was different now, quieter, heavier. No, more jokes about farm boy. No more trays knocked from my hands. Respect had settled in, the kind you don't need to speak out loud. But even with that shift, I couldn't shake the weight of everything that had happened. The laughter, the doubt, the nights I lay awake wondering if I'd make it. It all lived inside me, right there with the pride I finally felt. One evening I sat on my bunk polishing my boots, the sound of brushes scratching against leather filling the room. Ramirez dropped onto the bunk across from me, chewing gum, eyes steady. You could have quit, he said suddenly. Nobody would have blamed you. I looked up. I know. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. But you didn't. That matters. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. He already knew why I stayed. Respect isn't given. It's earned. The next morning we formed up by the flagpole. The sky was gray, wind cutting through our uniforms, but the flag snapped high above us, bold against the clouds. The sergeant paced in front, eyes scanning every face. He stopped in front of me, close enough I could see the scar on his jaw. For a long moment, he didn't speak. Then with a voice low enough only I could hear, he said, "You proved me wrong, Cole." My throat tightened. He didn't salute this time, didn't make a show, just said it straight. That meant more. The ceremony wasn't grand. No music, no cameras. Just us, standing shoulder to shoulder, boots lined, rifles at our sides. But when the commander called my name for recognition, I felt something explode inside me. Not pride for myself alone, but for what it meant. That every insult, every humiliation, every night I stayed up fighting through failure had led here. The silence that followed was louder than applause, a silence of respect. Later in the mess hall, Miller slid his tray across the table and sat across from me. The same table where he once tripped me, once laughed while I starved. His voice was quiet, almost broken. "You carried me when I couldn't. I'll never forget that." He didn't look me in the eye, just ate in silence. But those words stayed. They meant something. That night, lights out, the barracks was still. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how far it had all gone. I remembered my father's voice. Strength doesn't need noise. It shows itself when the moment comes. He was right. I'd been mocked, humiliated, pushed to the edge. But I hadn't broken. And now I wasn't just surviving. I was part of something bigger. At dawn we gathered again as the flag rose into the sky. The anthem played, soft but steady. I stood at attention, the cold biting at my skin, my chest full. Ramirez stood next to me, Miller a few rows down. None of us spoke. We didn't need to. Respect doesn't live in words. It lives in silence, in the way men stand shoulder to shoulder after fire, after struggle, after truth comes out. And in that moment, with the flag rising and the wind sharp in my face, I knew. Dignity once earned cannot be taken away. If this story resonates with you, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next chapters of this journey. The last image I want you to picture is simple. A line of soldiers, boots planted firm, standing in formation as the American flag rises. The wind cuts across the parade ground, sharp and cold, but not one man moves. In the middle stands Cole, no longer the farm boy everyone mocked, no longer the outcast with hand-me-down boots. His shoulders are square, his eyes steady, his silence now carrying weight. And then, almost unnoticed, the drill sergeant, the same one who tried to break him, gives the smallest nod. No words, just that nod. Respect finally earned. That's where the story lands, but it doesn't end there. Because what happened to Cole isn't just his story, it's ours. Every soldier, every veteran, every family knows what it means to be underestimated, to be pushed down, to carry a weight that feels too heavy. Sometimes the world laughs at your struggle. Sometimes the very people you're supposed to stand beside doubt you. But like we say in the service, actions speak louder than words. Cole didn't win them over with talk. He proved it mile after mile, push-up after push-up, breath after burning breath. And isn't that the lesson? Injustice will find you. Prejudice will test you. Silence will weigh on you. But dignity, once earned, cannot be taken away. Brotherhood isn't about who jokes the loudest or who looks strongest. It's about standing together after the fire. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And sometimes the hardest trials carve out the deepest respect. So here's my ask. If this story hit home, share what it brought up for you in the comments. Drop a like if you believe respect is forged, not given. And subscribe if you want more stories that speak to the heart of who we are. Soldiers, veterans, families, Americans. Until next time, stand tall, stay strong,